Welcome. I'm Pamela Rakia from livingjoyfully.ca, and today I'm here with Megan Valnes. Hi, Megan.
Hi, Pam.
I am so happy to have you back on the podcast to learn more about how your unschooling journey has continued to unfold. To get us started, can you share with us a bit about you and your family and what everybody's interested in right now?
Yes. So I'm Megan, and my husband and I have been married for 17 years now. We own a real estate agency here in Los Angeles, and I've been writing. So I actually have published writing now, even if it's on my own website. So I can say I'm a writer. Reading as much as I can. I love watching cooking competitions. I do yoga. We have a little farm on our property. We have 3 acres. We're lucky to live in like the last remaining wilderness of Los Angeles. So we have chickens and little guinea pigs and lots of animals. Love being with the kids. As a family, we really enjoy being outside together and having adventures together and just being together. We're together a lot, and we enjoy it. Our oldest son is 17 now, which is wild.
Wow.
I know. Like, what happened? So he's 17 and he's 6'1". So he's just like a man, like this big person now. He's super into music at the moment. He's learning a program called Logix, which is like a computer program for making music, for producing. So that's really cool. He's working on getting his driver's license, which will be amazing once that happens. And he works for our company, our family company. And then he recently got a job as a busboy in a restaurant for like a little summer gig, which is cool. Yeah. Our 15-year-old daughter, Lila. So we now have 2 teenagers, which is really fun. Really fun.
Yeah.
I really like it. They're so fun to be with. She's into Kung Fu at the moment. She just started Kung Fu.
Woo.
And she's loving it. Her passion is K-pop, which is Korean pop music. For people that don't know. And this has been a whole learning journey for everyone. So it has led her to start learning Korean, to start learning. I mean, we've learned so much about Korean culture because of it. And we are lucky to live in such a big city because we have a Koreatown. So we can go to Koreatown and get all these foods that she's learning about and go to Korean markets and go buy her albums because she's just like obsessed with K-pop. So now we all know about K-pop, which is pretty cool. And we're all learning a lot. And let's see, Zach, I wrote this down so I wouldn't forget anyone. Zach, there's a lot of them. Zach is 12. He's still super into dinosaurs. This has been a long-lasting interest. Like, he didn't grow out of it like a lot of kids, once they're 6 or whatever. He still wants to be a paleontologist. So he's actually approached me last night about going to school because he is concerned about, like, he really wants to be a paleontologist and wants to get into college. So we were just talking about that last night, which was very interesting. And he loves gaming online. Like, he's with his friends, gaming it up a lot. All the kids love gaming, but he's super into it right now. It's a big portion of his day is spent gaming online with his friends and watching, he likes to watch his science videos. He's really into science and math. He's just that kid. Like, he loves exploring. He's wild. He's always been a little wild man. He's still wild. We take him on hikes. He's like jumping off the highest cliff. So he's super fun. And Sarah is 10. She also loves K-pop. She and her big sister share a room. So they decorate it all with their K-pop posters. And it's really cute. She's really cute. And she loves cooking. And Sarah's just probably one of the sweetest, kindest people I've ever known. And she's just a gentle soul. She loves to cook. And I can't even remember the last time that she's asked me to make her anything. Like, I'll make dinner and she eats dinner, but she makes herself everything, like her snacks and these intricate things like with bell peppers and cream cheese. and like seasonings. And she gets a lot of ideas from TikTok because she'll watch, a lot of food channels, like, I don't know what you call it, pages on TikTok. And she gets all these ideas, which is really cool to see. And she's just sweet. And she loves being out in nature too. We all do. I mean, maybe not the teenagers as much, but the 4 younger kids, they really love it. And then there's Clementine. She's 6. She is a one of a kind. She is a total extrovert. She is hilarious. She's like one of the funniest people I know. She's got a sense for comedy. Wow. Like she knows how to make people laugh.
Yeah.
And she loves drama. She's the one who's doing the camp this morning. So my husband is picking her up from her little drama camp. She does a Shakespeare camp. Wow. And yeah, so she's like this little performer and she's just really funny. She's constant. Like she's just, my mom calls her a card, she's
yep.
Yeah, that old saying. And the 3 girls together, they all love K-pop and they all like one of the big things that they're into right now is they watch. So the K-pop like girl bands dance a lot and they do these intricate dances to their songs and they put their dance practices online on YouTube. Wow. So the kids watch them and learn the dances and then like do the dances for us. So that's pretty cool. Yes. So that's really fun. Yeah. Clementine just has no fear. Like in California, we call it like in surf culture, we call her a charger. Like she's a charger because she just charges everything, like no fear, just wants to do everything. I want to do this camp. I want to do that camp. I want to go here. Let's go to the lagoon. I want to surf. She loves riding her bike and she'll just ride it for miles. She's amazing. And she inspires me. And then the youngest is Ocean and he's 2 and he's a typical 2-year-old. Busy. He doesn't stop. He's super busy and he wants to be like, one of the big kids. Yeah. So he's just trying to keep up. And that's everybody.
A lot going on to keep up with, isn't there?
Yes, there's a lot. There's a lot going on.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Megan. It's so fun just to hear little snippets of everybody, right? And the different things they're interested in and seeing how, the interests of somebody can be interesting to their siblings too, right? And sometimes they'll do things together and then they have their own things. It's really interesting to hear how that goes. So I wanted to, calling back to our earlier conversation, which was, oh my gosh, I can't believe it was March of 2018.
Really?
Yes,
so I didn't even have those shit. I had 5 kids.
I know. I remember seeing, here comes the new one. That was very 6. Fun. Number 6. So we spoke then about how you found unschooling and we focused on deschooling. So I'll leave a link in the show notes to that episode for people if they want to go back and listen to that. But I thought I just wanted to ask, looking back now, how important was that more focused deschooling phase as part of your journey? When you look back, what do you think?
To me, it's paramount. And to me, honestly, when I think about it, it never ends. No. Like I remember reading something that Pam Sarushian wrote.
Yep.
Schooling never ends if you went to school. Like she kind of had this thought that maybe it just never ends because it's so ingrained for so long. And I think even to expound upon that is it keeps going because we're surrounded by mainstream society. I don't have a lot of unschooling friends near to me. I have some people online and, I'm still in some groups, like email groups or I get little messages in my inbox or I listen to your podcast. But for the most part, even just watching TV, right? Even just watching the Olympics. Yeah. And seeing like, okay, these kids were obviously very structured. Like they went for something. And I'm sure a lot of it, that was their interest. Like you can't force someone to that level. I don't think like they have to love it. Right. But there's still something behind even driving that, right. To get to that level. And so I think deschooling kind of never ends for parents because first of all, we went through, for those of us that went through school, we went through it and then we're surrounded by it all the time. Just subconscious ideas of what we should be doing, what life looks like. My kids go to camp. like there might be a lot of homeschoolers, but then we're doing this curriculum. Oh, we're doing that, and there's not always a lot of people to talk about it with. And it is so easy to get influenced and to think, oh my God, like, should I be doing a curriculum? Should I be sitting down more? Like, should we be focusing? And then it's kind of, whoa, remember who I am. Like, what are we doing here? We have to remember what we're doing here. So for me, it's a little bit constant.
Yes.
I feel like for the most part, I've gotten out of those big mainstream ideas. And I now really embrace the principles of unschooling, which was also hard in the beginning because it's just kind of hard to comprehend principles since we're never really taught that. We're taught rules.
Yeah.
Like it's easy to follow rules, just tell me what to do. Like make it easy for me. And then principles are like a little more ambiguous and what does it even mean? And then so learning that has been huge for me. And now I get it. I get the principle part. Nice. I know what that really means now. Like I knew what the words meant before, but I didn't really know what it meant.
Yeah, that was a big step for me too. The understanding it intellectually, right? It's like, yeah, okay, I can see what you mean. Yeah, that makes sense. But that transition into what it looks like every day, to what it means, like what I do every day, how I wake up and approach each moment, like that is stuff I have to actively figure out. I have to take that theory and actually apply it and see what it looks like in our lives. And that is the beauty and the challenge of unschooling, in that it looks different in everybody. It looks different to somebody with 6 kids. It looks different to somebody with different personalities, right?
Totally. Yes. And it's not like a theory that you can go see, oh, this is how it's applied and this is how it plays out because of that exact reason. It's going to play out differently for every family based on their dynamics. So it really has to be your own journey.
It really does. It really does. And like you said, we are surrounded with a culture and society that is just has different kind of goals, right?
Yes, right.
Different principles, the productivity, that, shining external goal, not that there's anything wrong, but again, you revisit it personally, like what are as an individual. Anyways, what I was trying to get to was, like you were talking about, sometimes we can get knocked off. And I find it so useful in those moments, as you were saying, to revisit our why, right? To remember why we chose this. And to remember those principles. It's like, oh yeah, it's like touching base with ourselves, because sometimes we can just get pulled out and it's so easy just to fall back into those routines, those things we, as parents, we probably grew up with them. But even they're just around us, right? It's so easy to get pulled into that.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's constant.
It's constant. I would love to hear your experience with navigating those different needs and personalities that come with 6 kids. I'm just curious. I love to ask people how their unschooling days flow. And because this is the thing, I think when people come to unschooling, it's easy to understand the principle that we're not trying to direct or control other people. Yet it's what do you replace that with, right?
Right.
Because it's not just standing back and doing nothing and then just like you just do whatever.
The fine line of neglect. Like you don't want to neglect them. Yeah. We're here to be guides for sure. So yes. So our days, our life, it's really busy. I mean, it's busy and it's like I'm back to working a little bit again, so I have help sometimes, like a few days a week for the younger kids that are awake earlier, like mainly my 2 and 6-year-old, because the other 4, depending on what we're doing, like we were in Yosemite all last week. So everybody was up early and it was the family and, we were doing Yosemite things, hiking and rafting and rivers and all those things. But now we're back at home, and the first couple of days they were waking up early still. And I was like, this is cool. Like we're all awake early, this is nice. And then slowly they're going back to sleeping in late. So the 2 little ones in the morning, when I try to get some work done or whatever, I have someone who actually has been with our family for 10 years and is incredible and is like a part of our family.
Lovely.
So she gets what we're doing and they love her. And so they play with her on the days that she's not here. We just wake up, we kind of hang around, we go out to the chickens, we feed the dogs, the little ones help me with the chores. You know, we just kind of do our little work around the property. My 2-year-old loves picking up dog poop. If he sees it, he forces me to like clean it immediately. So we do that and we just kind of enjoy it. We're slow, you know, we take it like slow and easy on our days together and on the weekends in the morning. And sometimes my 6-year-old she loves TikTok. So sometimes she's doing that thing or we're just hanging out doing whatever. And then the day just kind of builds up a little slower because the older kids wake up later. Mm-hmm. And then once they wake up, then things kind of start start buzzing. Right. And it just, I mean, every day looks different. Sometimes we're out running around. Having the 2-year-old has been a bit of a challenge because he's so active that it's really hard to it was really hard to like take him on any kinds of errands. You know, he would take him to the grocery store and within, here's a 6-year-old. And within a couple minutes, can you go up?
Wait,
I love you.
I didn't have any food. I'm starving.
There's your snacks upstairs.
I'm sorry.
They didn't allow you to take snacks.
Everybody was having food.
Well, okay. I'll talk to you about it after, but she told me no. Sorry.
No problem.
That's Clementine. So, where was I? Oh, so that has been kind of challenging because there's a big age difference. I mean, it's not a big age difference, but it is a lot in maturity years, right? Like, so Clementine is our 5th child. She's 6 and then Ocean is 2. Yeah. And then all the kids are, 10, 12, 15, 17. So it has been challenging to just work out the 2-year-old at this point. Every day is getting a little easier, but still like taking him into a store, say we want to go shopping. We have to coordinate like, okay, who's going to stay home with Ocean? Who's going to go? Because he's not going to sit in a stroller. Yeah. He doesn't sit in a shopping. He's not that kid. Like I have had that kid, the great kid who like sits and will look at a book and be totally content. That's not Ocean. He wants to go. So we're kind of tailoring more around what he wants, but it kind of does take a village at this point right now. I think in 2 years, it's going to look a lot different. He'll be 4. It'll be more like we can just get up and go. But at the moment, we're kind of here a lot unless it's a lot of outdoor things. We do the beach. He can run around on the beach. We do parks. He can run around at a park. We do hikes. He can run around on a hike. And with the older kids, I really have to like plan that time. So we have to be scheduled somewhat because I need help with Ocean. If like, say my daughter and I want to go shopping or they have a Kung Fu class or, they're going to start taking music classes. So if they want to do like those kind of things, it's just a little trickier right now, but it's a passing phase. It's not forever.
Well, I love the piece though, that you're just completely understanding Ocean's personality and where he is at that moment and just working with that. And yeah, so it gives more pieces to the puzzle, but I feel like you're just flowing with that.
Yes.
And not trying to put expectations around it.
No. Right. I just expect him to be a toddler, which is what he is. And he's a busy guy. He's just that busy toddler. I've had my middle son was just like him. I mean, we couldn't really do anything until he was over 3 because he was just wild. Like you take him to a restaurant, jumping, like wanting to climb up to the ceiling fan and swing from it. And that's not enjoyable for anybody. Yeah. It's stressful for the parents. It's not fun for the kids. So we do things that we go to restaurants where kids can get run around at. We do things that are easy for everyone or, we have him watch the phone, but even that it's only, 10 minutes, but we're lucky. We have some restaurants around here that have like little outdoor spaces and the kids can run. And I think it's good for for the older kids to see like how to flow, how to just go with what they need. And that this is a point in his life and it's a good perspective. Like things don't last forever.
Yeah, the don't last forever piece, and the piece that, they're part of the family, and we just
totally,
everybody has value no matter your age, right?
Yes.
And the whole piece of not having, like I mentioned, expectations, but just on their ages, like why put them in places where, like you said, it's not going to be enjoyable for them because they're going to keep being stopped from what they want to do. It's not enjoyable for us to have to keep stepping in and stopping them. It's not enjoyable for the other people in the environment to see all this going on. Like you're just setting everybody up to fail when you
exactly.
So finding places that work for everybody, like that's wonderful.
Yes. That's what we try to do. Even with our TV situation, it's interesting because so we have these two rooms that are next to each other, and we decided to put TVs in both rooms because there's a little bit of a separation, but we do it so that we can like be watching our show, right? Say we want to watch the Olympics. My daughter, she was an equestrian, and so she loves watching the equestrian and she's recording it. She wants to watch it, or we can watch movies that we want to watch. And then right in the next room where we can still see everybody, hi, wave, there's another TV. The kids can watch, if it's Ocean and Clementine want to go in there and watch their little shows, they can do it. And we're still all together.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant, right?
Kind of like figuring things out.
That was one of the things I loved or continue to love, because we still do it, like just changing up the house, the rooms, how we're using the rooms, like just moving beyond kind of the more conventional uses for rooms. Like this is our place. We can use the rooms however we're
exactly, and how you're going to use them.
Yeah,
like our dining room table is an art table. That's where we do art. We never eat dinner there. We do art there. We're just not in, and there's not even like furniture in the little room connected to it. It's just a big open play space, and it can be.
I know, it's so fun. It's like, oh, what could we do with this? What could we do?
Which I think is kind of a helpful thing, kind of like an offshoot or not a consequence, because that's negative, but like what's the word? I have such mom brain, but I really do. It's bad. Consequence is not the right word. The positive version of consequence of unschooling is having a more open mind like that, where you can see like, okay, this is supposed to be a dining room and there's a table here, but it doesn't, like, we can move beyond that.
Yeah.
We can make this work for us.
And now I'm trying to think of
yes. Outcome is better or something. We'll figure it out.
We will.
It'll come to me at the end.
But yes, absolutely. Because I find another thing I love about unschooling is how it kind of grows, like it rolls and picks up.
Oh yeah.
At first you question. So, I mean, and it depends on where you're coming from, but like for me, certainly first I question school. It's like, oh, does school really need to be part of it? And then, once you start questioning one thing, it's like, you're just more open to questioning more ideas that are in your life. And it doesn't become such a big a thing. It's like, oh, I can question this. Oh, does this really work for us? How do we feel about that? What might we do instead? How would that feel? Just the questions are just always bubbling up, aren't they?
Yes. I love it. It is so, like you said, I was listening to your podcast about joy, open and curious.
That's my favorite.
Really? I mean, that's it. That's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yep. That's beautiful. Now, I was thinking back, we connected before the call, and you mentioned something you wanted to chat about. And I remember reading in a book about attachment parenting, and the author mentioned that even sensitive caregivers get it right only about 50% of the time. And what stands out for securely attached parent-child relationships is that the parent actively acknowledges and repairs the disconnecting moments. Now, I know I felt it was validating for me that, because you go in with an expectation that you're going to get it right all the time.
Right.
That's part of, I know, let's laugh right now. But that is part of what we grow up with, right? Because we learn, like through school and just through society in general, that getting things wrong is bad.
Yeah.
Right. And you got to hide that. Don't let people know.
Right.
That, 50% of the time it happens. It's normal.
Yeah.
Because we're just real people doing things. Anyway, so I wanted to chat with you about what that piece, that repairing relationships, has looked like for you.
That part has been one of the most amazing I think benefit's the word that I was looking for.
Oh, back.
Back to that scratch consequence benefit. Okay.
Yep.
But this has been one of the most amazing benefits of unschooling, because my relationship with my oldest son, which I've talked about a lot in unschooling circles, because it was just so profound for me, was so damaged. I mean, like, messed up. If we had continued on the path we were on, he'd probably be like, I don't know, not here.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? But I don't think he could have even been able to stay in the same house with me until he was 17, because we're bickering. So that was a long time ago. I mean, he was 8. This is almost 10 years ago now that started making the changes. And now our relationship is so close. I mean, we've really mended. There are moments, of course, where I still get pangs of guilt, especially because I've had younger children.
Yeah.
And the way that I am with them, I'll just be like, oh, I wish I could have done this with Julian. Why didn't I know? But I didn't, and that's okay. And it's okay now. And we have repaired so much and we're so close. And I feel like he even said he feels like he can talk to me about anything. We love each other. He's like, my mom will say, oh, when teenagers, they get a certain age and they pull away from you, they don't want to be seen with you out in public or whatever. And he's like, we don't have any of that. He'll hold my hand in public. Mm-hmm. He gets the doors for me. He wants to take care of me. He helps me. He's amazing. He sees me holding something heavy. He comes and grabs it from me. He's just this amazing young man. And we're very close. We have deep talks. He goes through things. It's not all rainbows and unicorns, right? Even when you're unschooling, he has hard times. It's a 17-year-old. It's not easy all the time. And he can come to me and we have repaired our relationship. That I feel confident of.
Yeah. So how did that look
Well, it looked like me really just backing off and really taking the unschooling principles seriously in the beginning. It looked like me doing the work on myself because it was all my hangups, right? He was a kid. Now, was he the easiest? No, he challenged me in a lot of ways. I guess that's why he came that it was my growth. Really, I feel like that was a part of his purpose was to because he challenges everyone around him. He just kind of has that personality where he's not going to back down, but he's so kind and loving. And now that we've just allowed him to be who he is, he's this easygoing, different, he doesn't have to challenge in the same way he used to when he was just kind of fighting to be who he was. Now he is who he is and he's allowed to be that. And so it's just a much more kind of different version of that. He's just very thoughtful and it just looked like me doing a lot of work on myself and my husband. I mean, that's what it really came down to, was us changing to see he's the child, we're the adults. We got to get our stuff together and just allow him.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think that's one of the big steps is like you were saying before, it's being open to asking ourselves questions, right? Because, so often we can think we're the adults, we know better, we need to control them so that they learn, right?
Right.
So it's fascinating when you can start just asking yourself questions about it. What is the value, the impact of this control? What am I really trying to accomplish here? The value of the relationship. I think of it as kind of a shift from control to connection, really.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Moves from trying to control them to just connecting with them and learning.
Right.
Right. They're fascinating people
They are. Absolutely. And I feel like it was a blessing in a way, because he didn't have the type, like there are some kids where you can't eventually break them, right? Which is a horrible thing to say. But there are like, and there are parents who will do that. The very authoritative, like, and the kid will finally break. So you think until, right, they get out and maybe they have a chance, or maybe it's forever. Who knows? Julian didn't have that personality. Like it just wasn't going to happen with him. And then once I realized what I was doing, I was so dismayed, right? And it hurt me. Like, I can't do this. I don't want to break anything, especially the relationship with my son. I want to build that up. I want to make it beautiful. I want us to be friends forever. And so it was kind of good that he just kind of didn't. And he was little, he was 7 or 8, but he would just be like, no, I'm not doing it. And I realized what am I going to do? At one point, like, I'm not going to start hitting him or abusing him into doing what I want him to do. So something here has to change. And it's going to be me.
Yeah. And what is really interesting, I don't know, this was my experience. So I'm very curious to hear if it was yours too, because my eldest, similar story, was very solid in who he was. Right. And what he was and wasn't interested in doing.
Yes.
So, but what was so fascinating to me was as I opened up and released kind of that need for control and started trying to connect more, and I learned more about him and who he was as an individual and as a person, and why these were the things that he was standing up to or not wanting to do, etc. All those pieces started to make so much sense, right? About who they are as a person. It's like, oh, now I get why that was just not something they were going to do, right? So it wasn't like they were just, willy-nilly
trying to be obstinate.
Yes, exactly, right? You get
just being obstinate for obstinate's sake. Yeah.
Right?
No, they really had reasons. And I think what I have found is, once we backed off and just really allowed him and just, you do, okay, like we're here to support you and guide you and help you and connect with you, then now like he's much more open-minded, right?
Yes, absolutely. Because they feel respected.
Exactly.
Right? And trusted, and they trust us that when they say something, we're going to put it in the mix of everything, right? We're not going to just discount it or expect them to keep giving in. But I mean, I know it seems so paradoxical, but the more you can give and accommodate, if that's not the greatest word, but really show that you care and will help, they don't need to grab for that.
That's right.
Right. So they can give that to other people too. They really pay attention to, is this, how important is this to me? And if I say it's really important, I know that they will respect that. But you know what? I'm going to check in with myself first before I now put that out there, because I don't have to push for it anymore. Right.
Right. It's like the desperation is gone almost, right? To be heard.
Yeah.
And to be acknowledged. And they feel it's that trust component is so huge. And that has been the biggest thing that we've repaired was trust.
Yeah.
And now he's just so interesting. Like I just learned so much from him. Even my mom said she went on the camping trip in Yosemite with us. And because we grew up and, my mom is very stubborn in her ways, and my dad and then so me and all my siblings, right? Like we were like, no. And we would just argue, everybody like fighting so hard, digging into their own beliefs. Mm-hmm. No one ever really kind of being like, okay, let me hear your side of that. We would just dig our heels in harder into what we were saying. And so when we went to Yosemite, my mom said to me, I just love how Julian, because he stayed in the tent with her. And so they would talk, at night. And she said, I just love the way that, he has an idea and he has an opinion and we talk about it. And then if you present him like another opinion, he'll really take time to think about it and listen and maybe change his mind. Because in my family, that was like unheard of. Mm-hmm. I mean, you didn't change your mind only because it showed some sort of weakness.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like, we don't have that. And I thought, oh my God, that's amazing. That's so good to hear.
That is so interesting. That stood out.
He feels that, and that's another paradox, right? Like he feels so strong that he's not afraid of looking weak.
Yes.
Or seeming weak because he knows who he is.
Yeah. Well, and that's all because he's not feeling judged by his opinions, right?
Right.
They are his. And that's the other piece, like you were talking about, you and your siblings all like digging in, because when we feel like we're being judged, no matter what our opinion is, if somebody doesn't agree with us and we're feeling judged, we just feel so defensive. And it's so hard to hear other people, and it's so hard to reconsider or to hear something new and try to put it into the web of your understanding of whatever it is in the first place and try to grow. So hard when you're feeling defensive, because you're just waiting for your moment to jump in there and say, but
exactly. Right. And that was my big thing. I mean, that was something I really had to overcome, was being defensive. Mm-hmm. And he and I would work on it with each other, and he'd be like, you're being defensive right now. I'd be like, okay, I am. Okay.
I know. I have been told and that's fascinating. It's fun to have that relationship too, because they can point out things to us that in the moment we don't realize. Yes. Right?
Mom, you're being passive aggressive right now. I am.
Yeah.
Being defensive. Okay. I'm like, what? I would never.
Yeah. But what is so interesting, again, is that they are right. They are so often right.
They're right.
We can take the moment to think, even if and that's what's really interesting, because it is all about relationships, right? Because we can, even if in that moment, in the end, we decide that we don't feel like we were, feeling defensive or passive aggressive or whatever, we can understand how they saw it that way.
Yes.
Nobody's wrong, right?
Right.
Like, it felt that way to them. It felt that way to them. That's
exactly.
That. So that also helps us learn a little bit more about being in conversation with them.
Yes.
How things feel to them, because that is real too, isn't it?
Yes, totally. And I was going to say something, I lost it, but anyways, we'll come back at some point. But I think that has been one, just, it kind of stings sometimes, right? And so that's part of the learning process when you're repairing relationships, is kind of being able to take the sting and to reflect on it. It's like, what part of me is this hurting and why? And what's the deeper reason?
Yeah. And that, for me, that ties back to what you mentioned before, that open and curious piece.
Yes. Right.
And not being judgmental, but to be curious.
Yes, just exactly. Not being judgmental and allowing them to say those things, even if they hurt a little, reflecting on it and kind of, using it for next time and talking about it with them too.
Yeah. That's the great thing, is because you can, when you have that trust there and you have that connection there, you can have those conversations. It's like, oh, really? That didn't feel like it to me. How did it, you can say you, or, oh, maybe I was thinking about this. Like, that is the interesting thing too, is just processing with them.
Right. And it's creating,
but processing in front of them.
Right. And to me, it's like created such an emotional intelligence that I never had. Yep. I mean, I've learned this stuff as an adult, and they have it.
Yeah. I know.
As teenagers.
I know. So, and take it with them out into the world too, don't they?
Oh, yeah. Right. I mean, this will reflect across their whole lives.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So I'd be curious, what has surprised you most about how unschooling has unfolded so far for you guys?
I know, I've been thinking about this one. Well, I mean, the relationship with my kids has really surprised me. Mm-hmm. Because I love my parents so much. But these years for my older kids of the teenage years were not so lovely. They were very difficult. And we repaired them, right? When I became a mother and I became an adult and whatever, at some point you're like, I can carry this forever, or I can let it go and we can move on and we can love each other, because I know that we were really all doing the best that we could do. Right. And this kind of whole even idea of emotional intelligence is something a little bit newer for a lot of people, for me anyway, and for my family. And so I guess the relationship I have with them surprises me. Like we like each other. It's beyond like, we love you because, you know, you're my parent, you're my child, and all of that. It's like, we genuinely like each other. Mm-hmm. We like hanging out. My kids want to do stuff with us. I remember my older siblings, as they would get older, they would not come on trips with us anymore. You know, once they were like 14 or 15, they'd stay home. They wouldn't do the family vacations anymore. Yeah. They would prefer to be with their friends or whoever. My kids, like, we're still all doing it together. I feel like we're always going to, like, they'll get significant others. Hopefully they'll have some kids, because I do really want grandkids. And just putting that out there. And, you know, maybe it'll be all of us, right? Like, I can see that the family vacation just kind of expand, and then we just have a lot of people, and it would be amazing. And so I see that as like a real possibility, because of how close we are, and we're friends. We have fun. Even the little ones, like, we laugh, we just all have fun. I mean, they're so smart. Like, that part, sometimes it still surprises me how much they learn, because I don't even always know, you know, like how much they're learning or they're getting into certain things until, you know, they show me. I mean, my daughter's showing me how she's writing characters in Korean, and this all stemmed from loving K-pop, you know, which some people could be very dismissive, like, oh, K-pop, whatever, it's just pop music, boy bands, and, you know, manufactured, whatever, put together. But here it is, like something so deep and enriching, and has enriched her life so much. And then I see her writing in Korean characters, which is amazing, right? And they really want to travel there. Just these open-minded, like, these kids don't have to learn, right, to be open-minded and curious.
Yes. Yes.
They just are.
They just are, which is why when in my like intense deschooling phase, because I'm going to just call it that, the intense deschooling phase.
Right, the intense part.
It's always there in the background. It kind of it flows up and down and up and down. But anyway, what I was trying to get to was, I found it so helpful to watch them in action.
Yes.
Just to see, it's like, oh, you know, I don't need to feel so bad when I make a mistake. I don't need to go and hide, you know, for an hour till everybody forgets what happened. Just the little things, just seeing them like, oh, you know, that went wrong, and they try something different. It's like, making mistakes isn't this horrible thing. Like, I just learned so many things from watching them, watching their open and curious approach to things, and trying things out, and being so open about the world in general. And judgment, I feel, is so much of it is learned.
Oh, yes. Oh my God. There's so much less judgmental.
Yes. Incredible.
Oh my God.
Like, even when I felt I was not judgmental of people, but I found myself frustrated, I'm like, oh, okay, you know, this. And I would like share the story with them, and they'd be like, oh, but you know, what about this and this? And
yes.
Or if I saw, like, we went to the park, or, you know, they went to an activity and I saw something and I felt bad for them. And then I talked to them about it later, and they're like, yeah, you know, whatever. Yeah. I think they were hungry, or I know they had a bad day the other day, or, you know, they had so many positive, you know, good thoughts about it that did not need to go to judgment. It was just what happened.
But they're more compassionate.
And so much compassion.
Yes.
And I learned so much and I still learn so much just from watching them. Right.
I know. And you realize, like, the mistakes are so necessary. I mean, that's such a huge part of the learning process. And I think, like, we're born that way, right? We're born open and curious. And at some point it gets kind of shut off, like, no, and you need to be this way, and mistakes are not okay, and you've got to be right. And this whole other paradigm is set up. And then when you see them, I mean, I've had some kids that were in school, 2 of the kids, and then the other ones not. And even the difference of them, like I do see even differences between them, because at some, on some level, like I think even my 17-year-old still kind of deschools a little bit. A lot of his friends go to high school, it affects him too. And he was in school until I think beginning of 4th grade. I think he came out like in the beginning of 4th grade. And so that's those are formative years where a lot of hardwiring is going on. Right. And so even he's had his own process, but seeing him come out of it and being more, and you know what, they're less judgmental of themselves too.
Yes. Right. Because they don't embrace, they don't feel that need, even that need to judge themselves and get to think, oh, that was wrong, I shouldn't have done that or whatever. They just take it in as more information and use it the next time. Like maybe they'll never make that choice again, but they don't so much berate themselves. I mean, that can be a personality piece too, but they don't see it happening all around them, right? And again, it's a learned thing, right?
I think so.
So cool.
So, yeah.
So what is your favorite thing about your unschooling days right now?
Oh, the freedom. I love the freedom. I love that we can just flow. And I love that we are all learning so much. Like we're all kind of into our things and learning from each other and from each other's interests. And I love who we all are and who we're becoming. It just feels good. It feels good. We feel connected. I feel connected to my children and to my family.
Yeah, I love that.
And I love that.
Yeah. And doesn't it, as you were talking about that, what bubbled up for me is this feeling that we don't need to, like when we're in the flow and we're just sharing our interests. And even if we don't literally we aren't literally fascinated by the thing, we can so much connect over the joy and fun that they're having.
Yeah.
And it's all about the moment. We no longer are really, looking to the future. Oh, it needs to take us here. It needs to take us there. Right. Where are they going to be, 5 years from now? We can really just the freedom of the moment and being in the moment. And that this is where all the good things are, right?
Exactly. And all those little moments add up and all of a sudden it is 5 years later and it's a great place that you're in.
Exactly.
Right? And it has been all along and it just kind of like keeps building. And I was, darn it, my brain.
Well, and don't you find that if you think back to yourself 5 years ago, and what you might have thought where you'd have been, I find that where we flow and end up is just so much more interesting and fun than where I kind of thought we'd be. And that helps me build trust in the process too, right?
Yes.
That this just takes us fascinating places that fit us as people, as individuals, so much better than where I thought maybe I should be guiding us, right?
Right. I mean, it kind of lets off some of that pressure too, of this is what I think should happen. You're, again, more open to the experience.
Yes.
And where it kind of guides you, like if you get to flow on the river, where might you end up? But it's usually a lot better and you're going to be a lot happier once you get there than if you were fighting this current and trying to go the other direction and end up, exhausted and frustrated.
Yes. That's a very
at the end of it.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yes. Good brain. But
good
it's
brain.
so true, right? Because when they have that freedom, and us too, right? We learn from them. When we have that freedom to kind of follow our intuition, to make just take that next little step that we think will work well for us, and then see what happens and then adjust. We have the freedom to just tweak and play rather than, so that's kind of the flow, right?
Yes.
That flow rather than, like you said, fighting the current to rather than in our brain, taking something just really far down the road
right.
and already mapping our path And then spending the time trying to stay on the same damn path, right?
Exactly. When maybe that is not your path, maybe. And another thing that I find is I have learned to be so much less judgmental of myself, right? Where I used to be one of those people that I was like, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to be working all the time, producing, because we're in kind of a culture where like you must be productive in order to be valuable, right? Yeah. And so I have learned from them, like the downtime is just as productive. There might be a day where I just want to sit on the couch and watch like 10 of my shows in a row. I mean, that doesn't happen very often because I have a 2-year-old, but even like 2, right? Like, and I maybe I'm not going to read, and I am just going to watch TV, and it's going to be kind of bad TV, and that's okay. Like there is something productive in that, right? Like there's so much value in the rest, in the recovery.
Yes.
And I have learned that from my kids.
Because,
and not feeling guilty about it. Feeling really good about it.
Yes, exactly. Because it is part of accepting that we just don't know. And again, learning from my kids, watching them is like, okay, they're doing these things or this thing, or they're like out on the swing for hours and hours and hours.
Right.
Like, what are they doing out of that? Why? Yet when you give them that space, when you look back, you can't see it. Sometimes you can't see it in the moment, and you can't even expect them to explain. I was just listening to music, I was enjoying my music. But later on, like just in conversation, as things bubble up and they're talking about things, it's like, wow, you've thought about that.
Yes.
They weren't consciously, they were giving space for their subconscious, for their brain to just bubble away.
Exactly.
Interesting connections. You don't have to know in the moment. It doesn't have to look valuable or productive or
right. And that's the thing. We can't always see learning happening. I remember reading that. Reading like, we don't always know. They could be lying on the sofa, for 7 hours watching a show. You can't see what's happening in their brain, what connections they're making. That's where like kind of the trust aspect comes in, because there is a lot of trust and faith inherent in unschooling, not just between each other, but just in the process. Like, okay, everything's going to turn out okay. Because, there's moments where like, oh my God, have I done the right thing? What am I doing? Am I going to like cripple my children or something in society? And no. And then that's again, like that. Oh, okay. Wash those thoughts out. No.
Yeah.
Focus on the child, see what they're doing. You can't always see it, but it reveals itself eventually, right? All those like connections and the learning, it comes out. And so it's a big trust in the process. And I think with these kids, it's like, we hear a lot, a big thing today, right, in our culture is, what's our purpose? Everybody's searching for their purpose. What am I doing? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? Like, and everybody's like, I feel kind of waiting for this answer, self included. Like I get caught up in this stuff too. Right.
Yeah. And
it's like, you want this big answer to like come down on the tablet from the skies or something like Moses or my purpose is whatever. It doesn't really work that way. Right. And I feel like the kids don't really have that issue of trying to search for something, because they're just living it every day. Like they realize their purpose is kind of their joy and following that path.
I was just about to say,
staying on the river.
Compass, right? And that's the piece too, that they don't need to, with that bigger picture purpose like that. If you hold on to that too tightly, like they're okay with mistakes, they're okay with tweaking things just because they've been doing it. Like that's why they're okay with it, because they've been doing it for so many years.
Exactly.
And it's working.
They don't know any different.
Yeah.
I mean, they've kind of like lived their whole life in flow. Of course, like you're always going to come up against obstacles and challenges, and that's life. I mean, that is life. But it's the way you deal with them and how you see them as they can be. They're all positives, right? Like, doesn't really have to be a negative thing. There's always like something, like some golden nugget in there that we can find.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if that something is, now I understand why I thought I would like that. And now I know I don't think I am going to ever be doing that again.
Yes.
Exactly. That is a nugget of good information. That's learning more about themselves, right?
Yes. Refining.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big process, like refining ourselves and what we like and who we are. And It's such that's what I've just learned so much with unschooling as well. Like everything is a process. It's never just instantaneous. Like, okay, this is what you need to do. And here's where I need to go. And this is who you're going to be. That's what we want because we're kind of shown that that's maybe how that's like this artificial version of life that we're kind of shown. Mm-hmm. But the real version is like, everything takes time. Picasso didn't wake up and have his paintings, you know, in the Louvre, right? Like he worked, he did it every day. He followed his own joy in creation. And eventually now we know him as Picasso, but along the way, right? Like he was just this guy doing his thing. And that's a lot of people. And so it's always a process. And I think like for me growing up, I always had this idea that, you know, Shakespeare was just born, like that's who he was always going to be. And he worked at it too. Mm-hmm. You know, he had to sit down and write every day. Like some people are fortunate enough to just have this thing that they follow and it's joy and it's very clear to them and that's what they do. But a lot of us we have to kind of look around because we're not taught that. So I think one of the biggest things we are teaching our kids is, hey, look, just do what you love and keep doing that. And it can change and it'll morph and it'll evolve and it'll grow, but just keep on that trail, like following the breadcrumbs of your joy. And I think it will yield a beautiful life.
I think so. We see it. And the other piece that bubbles up for me when we talk about that, I think what can confuse or can get in the way for people is as their kids get older, they're looking at careers, they're looking at money, they're looking at income, you know, and absolutely. Yet it also doesn't have to be that their joy has to be a career.
Right.
And it doesn't have to stay a career. Like this whole thing, you know, you commit to a career and then you stay with that.
That's it. For 40 years.
Exactly. You know, we can
just sounds rough.
Our joy can still, you know,
hobbies,
waiting tables for the summer because this is fitting well and this is want some cash and you know there's nothing that gets in the way of that. You know, it doesn't have to be okay, find your passion, find your joy. That's not what I mean when I talk about using joy as a compass. Joy is a compass as today in this moment, you know, it can lead all sorts of places. It's not about have to,
and it might bring in your income. You never know. You know, that could be right. Like, it's just being open. And I think in this world we live in, when people worry about what are my kids going to do when they get older, like there are infinite possibilities, especially to make money now. I mean, there's just so many more opportunities. I was just talking about it with a friend today, how there are so many careers and jobs and things that existed that I never knew about as a kid. Like had no idea that these things were around. Yeah. And I think now there is such a broader perspective on all of that. And the kids know. And if you don't make it a worry, like it won't be a worry. Yeah. They'll find their way. Look, my 17-year-old is bussing tables. He loves it. I picked him up from work one day. He's like cleaning the windows, putting so much effort into it. I was like, who is this child? You know, because at home, kind of a different story. But I could tell he loved it. He loved it. He was cleaning it. He wanted to be of service to the restaurant. And that's what we told him when he went into work. We just said, hey, just be of service. Like you're there to serve the customers, to serve the restaurant, to just be helpful and do that. And he felt so good about himself when he came home. I mean, he was brimming with joy.
Right. And that is it. Like literally that's it. Because when things just bubble into their lives and it's not sitting back either, it's being open and curious again, right?
Right, exactly. Trying new things.
And it's like, oh, I want to try that. I want to try that. And,
yes.
And just showing up to the experience. And because they're choosing the experience, they're putting all that they want to into it. Right.
Right. Exactly.
And then they see what they get and they make choices and tweak from there. But when they're choosing, I feel like they learn the most when they're trying out the things that they're choosing.
Yes.
for their
Right.
team
Exactly.
trying out, because that's
totally.
where they want to be in that moment. So that's where they're going to gain the most from the experience, right?
Yes. Agreed. And it changed, like, agreed on all of it. And, like I said, I have a 12-year-old who wants to be a paleontologist, and he's talking about school. That could change, right? Once he goes, who knows? Nothing is set in stone. I mean, no pun intended with the paleontology thing. But we'll see, we'll see. And if that's his joy, it's interesting because my daughter was even talking about going to high school, and she's like, I would just be there to learn. Like, I would just really just be interested in the learning, not the social, like that's, learning new things or seeing new things. Not that she's not learning here at home, but just the way that's how she thought of it. Not like, oh, I want to go and like make a ton of friends and do this or that, or whatever. I don't know. It's just interesting the way she said it. And she's thinking it, like, I don't know if she will or not, but she might, and she might stop. And it's beautiful to see.
Gotten to the point where it's just another choice.
Exactly. It's just another choice.
And it's not a choice that has any long-term commitment,
Right. And that's what I love, is like, you can make a choice and you can see, this isn't the right choice for me, I'm going to quit. And that's not this terrible thing that, you should be punished for, because that's in a lot of things. Like, you're going to finish this, you've chosen it, you're going to see it through to the end. Well, that doesn't help anyone, really. And that certainly doesn't help you learn how to live a joyful life. I don't think that's a forced life, right? That's paddling upstream.
Yeah. Yeah. And I see quitting as a step forward. Because you learned more about yourself. You just
exactly.
This isn't a good fit for me. I'm gonna try something else now.
Yep.
That's all good. All good. Okay. Oh my gosh, Megan, I could talk to you forever and ever.
I know, it's really good.
Yes, it's been wonderful. It's been so much fun, and thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yay! And before we
go, this was really fun.
It was so much fun. Where can people connect with you online?
I am kind of
offline
of everything right now. People can email me.
Okay.
So I'll give you my email and you can put it in the notes.
Yeah. Okay.
You can email me. I do write a blog regularly on my real estate website, which is sometimes about real estate, but not often. I actually just write about anything I'm thinking about.
Oh, sweet.
So there's a lot of unschooling little things thrown in there. But otherwise, people can email me.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm kind of taking a break. It was supposed to be a 1-month break. It's turned into like a 1.5 years now, and kind of liking it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
That's perfect, right?
Yes.
Exactly. What works for us in the moment.
Exactly.
And there's no expectation.
Also, they could follow my husband on Instagram. He's a big poster and he loves it. And they'll see pictures of me every once in a while.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Megan, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Pam.
Bye.
Bye.